All right, guys, we are ready to do our questions here yesterday they should have been done, but they were not done. I'm not going to say who made a mistake, but it wasn't Janet or me.
Or Dwayne.
It wasn't Dwayne either. It wasn't Jimmy or Goof here. It was someone who is not one of us. Anyway, Janet's going to read the questions. We're going to have a super fun time. By the way, September 11th, a very, very serious time here in the States. Those of you around the world also should take part in this because anytime the free world is attacked, we're all attacked. We're all in this together, right? We're different countries, but we're in it together in our fight against any kind of authoritarianism, dictatorship, or terrorism. We should really fight against that. And that's all I'm going to say politically, but I'm going to just say my heart and prayers go out to anyone who lost their lives or who was affected as a result of September 11th. And that's it. Let's get started with questions.
First question, LURITHA M. Hi, Robert. We communicated about 2 years ago regarding tracking training. I recently got a border collie at 7 months age to be a partner for Kiera during the day. She is lovable and super clever. However, very jealous. She nips at Kiera not only when I give attention to Kiera, but when we exercise. When I throw the ball for Kiera as a reward and to fetch, she runs alongside and nips at Kiera's face. Kiera is so task-oriented that she does not bite back. How can I stop this nipping?
So this is normal going to be, I'm assuming it's two females. Is it?
Let's see. Yes.
Okay. So two females, they become bitchy with each other. I got banned off Facebook or Instagram for a day for saying bitch. That's female dog talk, right? That's like not politically incorrect talk. That's a female dog. They get bitchy, they get snappy, they get cranky with each other. And I'm assuming it's the puppy doing it to the older dog. So you, not criticizing you, but I'm going to tell you the facts. You did not give the puppy enough structure to understand that you shouldn't be doing that. Now, that's not a big deal. You still have time to do it. But you need to get on the puppy. The reason you need to get on the puppy is because Kiera is not doing it. And the fact that she's not doing it shows she's a really, really nice dog. Like Jimmy doesn't really, well, actually Jimmy does push back against Dwayne if Dwayne pushes his buttons. What you want to prevent two things. One is you want to prevent Kiera from becoming dominant over your older dog, because that's not fair. And two, you want to prevent the Kiera from snapping. You want to prevent the puppy from becoming dominant over Kiera, and you want to prevent Kiera from seeing that she doesn't have an advocate in you and she has to defend herself. In other words, my dogs always know this guy settles everything. They don't ever think, well, I've got to get in there because there's nobody here to fight for me. I fight for everybody in the house. So therefore, I don't ever have dominant struggles in my house. I'm the most dominant creature in the house. And everyone kind of kowtows to my way, except for Janet. She doesn't kowtow to my way. I kowtow to her. Well, she's the most dominant one. She's saying no, but she really is. But in all seriousness, you need to make sure that you're more dominant and that you don't put up with that. So I would get the puppy and I go, hey, knock that off. And really come down on her in a non-emotional way. Don't take it personally. Don't yell at the dog. Don't get upset. But it's like, hey! And that shuts it down. And that's what I would do. I mean, I'd put a long line on her or go up and grab her and make sure that's not acceptable. It'll help Kiera a lot and will help the puppy of the structure to know that she's not allowed to do that.
Okay, good. Roy H. asks, excuse me, let me start that over again.
Sure, Roy H.
Roy H. says, my 1.5-year-old Belgian male, unaltered, has a staring issue.
Staring or steering?
Staring.
Okay, staring. Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
I don't think he's driving. I think
no,
it
could be steering.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's staring.
Staring issue.
If on a walk and he sees a person or animal, he will stop and sit and watch them till they are out of sight. No barking, lunging, or whimpering. No aggression. He has even heeled backwards to watch people behind me. Is this an obsessive-compulsive behavior I need to stop? I talked to the breeder. He said the father had the same traits. Father was a working dog.
Mm-hmm. So herding dogs are very triggered by movement and by other things. For example, in the ring sports, French ring, Mondial ring, I'm sure Belgian ring, I don't know anything about Belgian ring. I know very little about French ring, but I know enough to know that there are certain escorts the dog does that the dog, which would put him in the same kind of mindset as with sheep. When somebody moves a certain way, they focus on it and they watch those movements. So part of it is I mean, all of it is genetic, obviously, first of all. Now, part of it is going to be something that if you're not going to work this dog, you want to kind of ease him out of that behavior. So he's not going to ever be put in a position, and that whole thing of healing backwards around the other object, the other dog or whatever it is Jan's making faces at me here. I want to say what she's doing. Is a behavior that's in the dog. So what I would probably try to do, I would have a toy with me, and when the dog starts to fixate on the other dog or object, whatever, I go, hey, come here, good boy, and get him to start to see that he can lighten up. Because as it gets more and more intense, and it never really manifests for him into any kind of a thing that he should be doing, it's going to be kind of left to the dog's own devices. Is it going to be just something that goes away, or is it going to be something that he's going to really start to fixate on? And at 1.5, that's this adolescent phase I always talk about in dogs, that 18-month window. And that's where the dog starts to determine what he's going to do, right? He's kind of gotten some structure from you, some attention, some love, some play and stuff, and then he starts to figure out where things are going to go. So at this point, when he starts doing these things, I would have a tug toy with me, and I'd say, hey, come here, good boy. Yeah, good boy. So you're kind of rewarding him for sitting still, for not fixating, but you're also letting him know, look, and then release, come back to me, life is okay. You don't really have any job in this. And that's kind of how I would handle it with him. I think it'd be a really nice thing for him to kind of take the edge off of him, so to speak.
Okay, great. ALBIN O asks, hi, Robert. How often and when do you let your dog off leash? Thank you.
So I let my dog off leash when I am in training mode or in structured play mode. I don't really let my dog off leash to just go run around. I do it only in completely controlled environments. For example, today I was out training with my friend Oscar, and dog comes out of the car on leash, always out of the car on leash, boom, potty to the field, structure sit, leash comes off, leash goes around my neck, healing, obedience, and then release to a toy, and then right back to me. I guess if there was a fenced-in park where I could, or even a big park where I knew the dog was safe, I might do that. But I would never let my dog off leash until I knew that the dog was completely under my control, and that I could at any point call him back, or I'd be using an e-collar. And sometimes even with my dogs today, I didn't, but I would still put him on an e-collar just to have that assurance. The e-collar is like an invisible leash. Once the dog knows it, you don't have to turn it on anymore. It's like a bark collar, but they don't really have that free time. They don't just go running in a park with me checking my email or anything like that. There's it's all structured based on either interaction, or even if I was playing with the dog, I would have a toy, I would play fetch with the dog, and call the dog back, have the dog sit, have the dog down, release the dog, throw something, but always structured.
Sue says, hi, my dog is not comfortable around other dogs. He will lunge at them. I am not sure if he will actually bite, and I don't want to take that chance. Do you think if I muzzle him, it will help, so that we can at least go for walks and I don't feel nervous about meeting other dogs on the way? Many thanks.
Well, the muzzle can do one of two things. The most important thing the muzzle does, it protects the other dog and you and your dog from a lawsuit or potential fatality. The thing that muzzles also do is they create what we call muzzle rage in a dog. So a lot of, like, you'll see military dogs or even police dogs, they put them in a muzzle and they send them in to bite. And that frustration, that rage, is what gets the nice strong bite. So if I wanted my dog to bite harder, I would put him in a muzzle. I would send him in to bite somebody once he's had some training or some of that defensive drive harnessed in him. And I would let him try to bite, and then I would call him back, and then I would take the muzzle off, and then I'd let him go bite. Because that would increase the dog's frustration. Frustration is what creates a bite in a dog, a really nice bite in a dog. So if your dog has a reactivity issue to dogs, and you're very smart to not put it to the test, the muzzle will help you if your dog is ever off leash. But I guess I would see, is the dog a big dog, a little dog? I would really start with training the dog to lose that reactivity. It's not comfortable for dogs to walk around in muzzles. There are certain muzzles, like the Jafco muzzle that I recommend, that will do wonders in. The dog can open their mouth, the dog can drink and even take treats in it. But it's not a great way for a dog to live. It's something that once dogs have a bite history, rather than putting the dog down, some animal control agencies will issue a permit or a license for the dog as long as they're wearing a muzzle. It's not the way I would do it. I would really start with a trainer. I would really focus on getting that behavior out of the dog, or at least channeled into a way that you can control. But if you were going out, like, with some friends on a walk and you had some issues, or you were going to be in an area where there's going to be especially little dogs off leash in your neighborhood, I would absolutely muzzle the dog, because I would want to protect the other dogs and protect yourself. Because it's a horrible, horrible feeling if your dog would ever hurt somebody or another dog. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wish people would tell what their breed is, because that
Yeah.
would sort of help your answer
Yeah.
a little bit. It's so nerve-wracking to have a dog who's not relaxed on the leash.
It's hard, but I would build confidence in them. I really would look at this as a training opportunity, because I've had countless dogs that end up look at the Red. Red was super reactive, and I advocated that Will don't put him on a muzzle, and he didn't. And the dog is the nicest dog. We see him walking around our neighborhood. The dog is under complete control. He's done all the work. And Rio, so many dogs that I've worked with and that you've seen here in the sessions on the site, by doing the right thing, the behavior is completely controllable and manageable. And remember, it doesn't go away. If they have that personality, it's not going to go away, but it's going to be very manageable.
Great. Keegan says, "Hi, Robert. When I went to do leash reactivity training outside the dog park, I had my dog sitting on the back of the ute with lead near where his crate and water bowl are, and someone walked past and their dog was on a leash but was about to jump on my ute, and my dog snapped at it. Is that more protection over his crate, or is that leash reactivity? I'm not sure if he would snap if he greets another dog on leash, because I don't let him to stop his reactivity, but he is fine at daycare with dogs."
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm saying ute it's either one of these, like a gator or something, or it's a utility vehicle. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. He's sitting basically in an area, and this sounds to me, from exactly what you're saying, it sounds to me like the dog was kind of protective over its area, and a dog came up and got in his space, and he kind of snapped out at him. That's not really unrealistic, right? That's not something that I would say is he's being a naughty dog. He's being protective of his area. He's being protective of that. And this other person, even though that dog was on leash, was kind of allowing him to violate that space. So I'm a stickler for dogs not doing stuff like that. But, this is something where it's not fair to expect your dog to be alone. You're not with them. You're not able to control them. And, somebody got in his space and he snapped him. He didn't lunge off, attack him, or do anything like that. I think it's totally acceptable. And I don't think, a really strong dog, I don't think you're going to get that out of him. And it's not, there's no real reason to get out of him. You should, at the club, you were there a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple people who leave their dogs in the back of the pickup truck, and they're not chained in. They're not coming off of there. And Janet was like, "Oh, I'm kind of nervous walking past there." And I said, "That dog's never going to jump off of there." Those dogs, we train them to a degree where they're completely, I know 100% I can walk my dog past there. It's not going to happen. But if I let my dog go in that space, the dog would for sure nip at my dog. So I don't think you did anything wrong. Just keep training your dog. You're doing great.
Garrett says, "What kind of breed-specific job would you recommend a nervous, sharp Boston Terrier? He loves playing fetch with a Frisbee and treat hide and seek, but still fights nervousness with around our 3-year-old twin girls. We walk him nearly every day, but training frequency is less regular. It's not easy to make it all happen with young twins, but we want the best we can do for our Boston Terrier. Is there a job that plays off his natural instincts that can help? Keep up the good work."
Well, terriers are natural hunters, right? They're really bred to kill vermin. So that the idea to bite, for the idea for reactivity in a terrier, mainly to animals, right? But small children can be seen as that kind of in between thing, depending how old you. 3 years old. The
3-year-old twins.
So 3 years. They're in that really weird. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. That weird in-between phase where they're walking funny, they're not walking like adults. But terriers tend to have aggression. It's what's bred into them to hunt vermin. Like any dog that's meant to hunt vermin can be kind of gnarly. So, I had a client who had a really nervous Boston Terrier, and the real thing is really solid obedience. Give the dog something to do, And what I would probably do with that dog, if he's nervous around your daughters or your twins, I don't know if they're boys or girls, I would probably put twin girls. I would probably put him in a crate, give him something that he absolutely loves. Like I would feed him in his crate when the girls are out walking around, and I would let him experience them and see that there's no real threat there. And then if you're a responsible parent, which I hope you are, I would try to teach your children not to get in the dog's face, not to get in the dog's food areas or toys, just till the dog gets really super comfortable and they get older. I mean, you obviously have the dog under control, but put him somewhere where he's safe, where there's a safe zone for him away from the kids, and let him experience those kids doing their crazy little kid stuff, whatever they're doing, playing, running, screaming, or whatever, in a place that he's completely controlled, so they don't accidentally step on him or tumble over him or throw something at him or something hits him. And the more he sees that, the better he's going to get, right? It's just protecting him. It's when the dog is out and the dog has a bad experience. Somebody steps on his toe or they're running around and they trip over him. That's when the dog starts to engage his defensive drives in trying to protect himself. So, the more you can get him out and do stuff with him, if you want to do agility with him or you want to do nose work with him or anything like that. I mean, I think nose work kind of scent games are a really great way because it puts the dog in a state where they have to think. That being said, that doesn't change the dog behavior. It kind of gives them something to focus on and build some confidence, which you kind of want to do with the dog. But I would really, in tandem with that, work on creating the dog and getting him into a place where he's really safe, where he feels safe.
I like the idea of a little nose work.
Yeah, nose work is great. Yeah, I mean, terriers have a lot of drive, and all dogs have great noses. Not as good as, let's say, a bloodhound or something, but every single dog can do nose work. It's a super rewarding game. I love it, and I'm going to be doing some videos that are coming up on exactly that. It's going to be quite a long series. I got a bunch of it with Goofy, and then we started working with little Ziggy on it. It's really coming along well.
Ivan says, "Hey, Robert, can you explain to me exactly how dogs are domesticated from wolves? Comparing a working line Malinois or German Shepherd to a wild wolf, how is that domesticated? Both have prey drives and other stuff. What is different? Could you not get a puppy? No idea how you call a baby wolf. Puppy wolf.
Wolf pup.
And train it like a protection dog."
No, because it's a great question, right? So they both have natural prey drive. Certain animals, you have to look at the selective breeding of the dogs, and this has happened over thousands of years. They were evolved. Look, if you compare a wolf to a dachshund or a pug, you would never think they come out, yet they share 98% of their DNA with that animal. That being said, we share 98% of our DNA with bonobos, right, or chimpanzees, but we're very different. There's still it's the 2% that makes the difference, right? It's not the 98% of the same, because we share 50% of our DNA with amoeba, or slugs. So the 2% is what sets it apart. And now to tackle this, and this would be a really great topic for a long podcast for you guys, but the evolution, the co-evolution of those wolves living with people and then being bred another young pup. Once you remove a dog 2 times from the feral state, they become unferal, they become domesticated. And there was experiments they did, I forget the name of the movie, there's a really good movie about that, where they showed that after 6 generations, the dog was completely domesticated. It was complete, and it would start to look different. The prick ears went into floppy ears, and the behavior started getting different. The face of the dog started changing. And if you take that over 1,000 years, or a couple hundred generations, or 1,000 generations of the dog, now you have a dog that's domesticated, and that terminology is what separates it from the wolf. The wolf is not domesticated. It does have the same kind of prey drive and defensive drives maybe that the wolf has, but the domestication is what then allows the dog, the Malinois Shepherd or whatever, to relate to the human and to defer to the human, where a wolf will not do that. A wolf will not defer to the human. A wolf also won't make eye contact with you. I've worked with wolf rescues, and if you have a truly hybrid wolf, that is a wolf that has high wolf content, that dog or pup will not make that eye contact that a domesticated dog will. So it's the 2% that makes the difference. It's that evolution that over thousands of times of breeding that the dog is more and more removed from the feral state and from the wild state and becoming a domesticated animal. It's a long thing. I would love to do a long podcast on that one day.
OLDSAP Charlie says, "Hi, Robert. I'm doing this new heel position pattern with my 1.5-year-old Mal. He has almost gotten the pattern after a few sessions, but I don't know how to make it faster and snappier. Here's a sample video of our session. Thank you for your time, Robert, and God bless."
God bless you, Charlie. I love getting your messages. And we watched the video just before this. Janet made me watch it, thank God. So I can give you some drills on it. So what you're doing is you're teaching the dog the here foos command. And that is something that's used in IPO. So if from the blind, from the bark and hold through the blinds, dog goes into the blind, barks, and you stand behind, you say here foos, and the dog comes and immediately gets into heel position. So what you're doing, you're sending the dog out to a touchpad, and then calling the dog to here foos, and you're getting the dog to do a go around finish. So you're asking the dog to go from your right side to your left side into heel position. And that it's a good exercise. You're doing it very, very well. If a couple of times I saw you struggling with it, and I saw that you had a hard time, like the dog would kind of get halfway and wouldn't do the finish, and then you had to lure it. So I would first of all start by getting the dog in front of me and using 2 balls, one in one hand, one in the other, and I would, or just let's say one, for example, to start with. I would take the one and I would have it. I'd say, here, foos. And as soon as the dog came in, I would put it behind my back, pass him the other hand, and hold it high. As soon as he sits, I would throw it. That would be much closer. Now you're doing it from a distance, so you've got to start a little bit closer, let the dog succeed there. But depending on what you can do with your dog, be careful, because dogs that auto finish, we went through this, and Goofy has done it, and Jimmy's done it. Every dog in obedience has done that, because they're so used to you calling him into the here foos command, or here, and then, or front finish. So the dog always thinks I have to finish. That's a danger you're going to run into. You guys watch this video. All of you guys watching this this Q&A, watch the video and you'll understand. Get the dog to, first of all, start in the front, go into the finish with a ball, and then once the dog kind of understands it, what I would do is I would have a line, and I would pop the dog and go, here, 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 and pop, 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 put some urgency into it, and then you can pass that line behind you and put him into position. But work that hand in hand with the reward of the toy, because if you put too much pressure on the dog, then the dog is going to get more reticent to do it. The dog is going to think, oh, there's too much pressure. I would use the collar here as a, hey, come on, hurry, 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 hurry. And I would have something in my left hand, and then I would throw that to the side. But pick it up like a ball. Let's say once you get the dog, hey, here, boom, pop him into position. He comes around, and pick it up, sit, and then throw it. So toys are going to speed it up for you. You're doing it right now with treats. Maybe you're still forming the behavior, but don't make the mistake of just doing that. Make sure the dog still understands it here, and he comes to here, and then throw a ball behind you, let him go through your legs, then here foos, or what I think you're calling it. I think he was saying foos in the video, getting the dog into that position. So I would ping pong it, and I think using a toy will bring it up. But first, you need to make sure the dog understands it. And if the dog is doing it slowly right now, during the learning phase, don't put too much speed into it, right? During this learning phase, it's about getting the idea of what you want the dog to do. Then when he starts doing it, then put your speed into it. You put speed in too soon, and he's going to get in that position. He's like waiting for a toy. You're jacking the dog up, but he has no idea where he should be steering on the map. So get him to know that position 100%, real slow, real consistent. Then start throwing that toy in there and whipping that toy around. You can even have him in front of you and have like a ball on a string. Go, hey, where is it? Where's your toy? Where's your toy? Where is it? Here, foos. And then it comes to a position, and you throw it. But I would make it more precise first. I get a little wound up there. Janet's rolling her eyes at me.
That sounds fun.
That's fun. Yeah, it's a fun little exercise.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa L. says, when my dog was 6 months to 1 year, he was introduced to other family dogs and gets along wonderfully with them. He is 2.5 now and starting to show aggression towards other dogs on walks, newly adopted puppies in the family, etc. He has basic obedience, sit, down, touch, paw, stand, etc., and will be obedient when he is removed from the stimulus. Could his high prey drive be the reason we are beginning to see aggression? He has a black mouth cur lab mix.
Yeah, for sure. Defensive drive prey drive is going to defensive or prey drive is gonna harness itself in aggression. So you need to give the dog a job. And I would always use a crate for initial introductions. I also posted the video on how to introduce your puppy to another dog by doing the stacked introduction. One person on Facebook had a different opinion of it. They said just take him for a walk. I don't do that. And I'm going to actually post a reply to that because I think it's really important that I make my position well stated so that people know when I give an opinion on why I do things a certain way, it goes into a long history of experience, especially with shelter dogs. And this whole idea of, your dog is very comfortable with the dogs he knows, but the dogs he doesn't know, he's throwing suspicion into it. And it's his suspicion that really kind of makes him go, should I bite this dog or should I accept this dog? And he's going to the position of, I'm going to bite the dog, right? He's going into a defensive position where he's trying to defend himself or you. And what I would do is I would teach the dog solid obedience, around everything. Good. When I see another dog, I would walk the dog, burn that energy. And then once he gets to focusing on me and really gets a nice focus, then as soon as he sees another dog, I would say lie down or sit or whatever. And then if he didn't do what I asked him to do, I would correct him. I'd correct him firmly, very firm, especially if this 1.5 years old, right?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. So that's actually later than, that's past that 18-month window. You probably have been seeing it for a few months, and maybe you didn't do anything about it. And that's what happens a lot. Like you go, well, it's kind of strange. Like maybe it's nothing. And that idea, and most people default to that. They say, well, it's probably going to go away. And that's a danger, right? If your dog is doing something that seems dominant, it's probably not going to go away unless you structure the dog. And I'm not saying beat up the dog or hurt the dog, but structure the dog in a way that's fair to him to understand what you will and won't accept. And aggression is something I don't accept with my dogs at all. Just never. And it's people say I'm kind of a dog Nazi, my favorite term. And that comes, by the way, from Jerry Seinfeld's The Soup Nazi, who was very controlling over the soup, and I'm very controlling over dogs. You really just want to get it under control. Teach the dog, movement, get the dog focusing on you, then go to static exercise. I don't ask for a down on a dog that's nervous. I ask the dog to walk away and focus on me.
Lisa says, what is the best way to use a flirt pole during training? I've been using it to build drive and occasionally cap drive. I own a 2-year-old American bully with moderate prey drive.
So, and I think that's really good that she's using it for building drive and capping drive. And if I was working with an American bully, then that is exactly what I would be doing with it. Because the dog is naturally going to have a certain degree of drive, and it's probably going to be a pretty high degree of drive. So my position would be I would bring that drive up and I would cap that drive. And that's all I would do with it. I wouldn't do anything like bringing those drives up and letting him bite. With a bully, I wouldn't do that. I would do that if I had a little shepherd, or like we did it with Ziggy. I used the flirt pole, and then I would let him bite onto the toy at the end, and I would pressure, and let him get that. A dog that I don't want to bite, and a bully would probably be one of those dogs. I would use it to jack him up, and then boom, cap that drive, and then maybe give him some treats or something like that, to show him that I control your drives. And when you can control the dog's drive, you control the whole dog.
Santiago says, hi, Robert. First of all, thanks for all your hard work. My Malinois pup is now a calm and lovely pup who can be around other people and dogs without reacting. However, we live in Bogota, Colombia, and there's been reports of some members of security agencies and possibly the armed forces stealing Belgian Malinois to raise as working dogs. A trainer recommended not playing ball with her and showed me how easily she could be lured with a ball. Do you have any tips or training steps to prevent this?
Oh, man. It's like food refusal. It's like, I think somebody's going to steal your dog. They're going to steal your dog. I hate to say that. It sounds really, I don't think, now food refusal I always teach, and I got a video coming out on that. You guys have been asking for it for a long time. I finally found a dog that wanted to do it, and maybe we can get another dog to do it. But it's a really good video with Rio. Not having, you've got a Malinois, you've got a really well-trained Malinois. Not teaching that dog or allowing that dog to play with a ball is torture for the dog. It's. And I'll tell you something. The other thing I would worry about too is If you don't play ball with that dog and somebody else now does play ball with that dog is going to go to that. It's like telling your kids you can't have candy, and somebody goes, "Hey, I got a handful of candy. You want to come with me?" And the kids are going to go with that person. It's a really sick comparison, but your Malinois has a natural ball drive. I think if I had a Malinois that was 4 years old and had never seen a ball, and I brought a tennis ball out, I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing in the world." I really truly believe it's in their DNA. So I would teach my dog things like I would play ball with him, and I would have somebody else go up the dog with the ball and try to lure him away. And when he did, I would correct him. I'd go, "Hey, no, no, no." And right when he turns back to me, I'd play ball, play ball, play ball. And I would use this as a great training opportunity. Maybe we should do a video on that. How to prevent your dog from going off to another person. Your dog should this is a great training opportunity for you to, one, train your dog to not listen to somebody else, not to go with somebody else. Your dog should only pay attention to you, one. And two, man, keep an eye on your dog. Just don't let your dog out in the backyard if you're around. And I mean, I'm so sorry that, you're a really nice guy. You've done such a great job with your dog, that you live in such an area where somebody would do that to your dog. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So my heart goes out to you. Sucks.
Yeah, you can't leave that beautiful dog unattended.
No, you can't.
Benjamin T. says, I live in a very busy area and can't walk out my door without my 4-month working line German Shepherd dog seeing 5 skaters, bikers, it's a puppy, people, etc. He barks at them, and most days it's so hard to avoid. I live in a small apartment and take him out at least twice a day, but there's always so much activity around him when we are outside. He wears a martingale and pulls amidst it all. How do I know if the pulling is hurting him by damaging the glands in his throat?
It's not hurting him. I mean, it's just not. I mean, unless you're, if you're, a martingale only contracts to a certain degree. The reason the martingale is such a user-friendly collar is because it won't go tight. Like if it was on a choke chain with a young puppy, yeah, maybe you could. And I still, with a working line German Shepherd, would not worry about it. I'll tell you what I would do with your dog is I would, and you're not even asking for this advice. First of all, to answer your question, I don't think the martingale is going to hurt your dog at all. The whole misnomer is that, the neck is so sensitive and you can do all this damage to the trachea and the cervical and all this stuff is all inflicted by positive only people who have their own agenda, which is usually very mean-spirited. What I would do with your dog, whatever you're feeding this dog, it would only be fed on a walk. I would put it in a training pouch or in a vest, and I would open the door and I would start feeding this dog. There would only be food coming from my hands, and only when I'm walking out the door and in the initial phases of that walk, so that the dog knows. And honestly, the first 2 or 3 times you do it, you might open that door and the dog might just bolt out. And if he does, let him do it. Let him go out and let him do whatever he's going to do. Give him slight corrections so he doesn't get hurt or doesn't get, into a scuffle with another dog. But then show him that you have the treats, or the food, not the treats. And do not feed that dog from a bowl in your house at all for the next 2 or 3 months.
That's a great plan.
I know. I mean, I would just do that. I mean, you just have to find the dog's natural needs. You can yank the dog's head off, right? And that's what some trainers would do. They'd put a prong on him and just pull him back. And that's really great. But it's a 4-month-old puppy, and you're just teaching this dog that going outside means I'm going to get my head pulled off. So now you're going to build an aversion to that, and the dog's going to hate you, right? It's really, really a bad idea. Instead, make the dog, okay, you want to go run outside, go ahead, but there's no food. And the dog's food drive may not come up till you skip 2, 3, 4 meals. And a puppy, you're probably feeding it 3 times a day. So it might be hungry for a day. It will not kill your dog to skip a day's worth of food, or even a puppy. So, and I would have great food. I mean, if you're feeding him raw, it's even better. I'd put a Ziploc bag in my fanny bag, and I would be feeding him raw meat, walking out that door, and that dog would be so glued. Every time I'd open the door, that dog would be looking at me. That one's worth the price of a yearly admission right there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Nick says, hey, Robert, it's been a rough week. I had to evacuate for Hurricane Ida.
That sucks. Yeah. That sucks. I'm sorry.
Evacuated with my 14-month Cocker Spaniel with me to a friend's house. While there, my dog would constantly beg for food while we ate and would run to try to eat my friend's dog food. My question is, what do you recommend to fix this issue and have my dog show patience while we eat and the other dog eats. I had to put him in his crate, but I don't think this is fixing the problem. Still working on the place command. Thank you.
Well, I think it is fixing the problem. I mean, I think, first of all, your dog is stressed out, right? You're stressed out, your dog is stressed out. So you can't really, you don't train in stress. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't help. So you might have to be a little bit patient with your dog and say, you know what, this is going to be a little hard for the dog. You're in a strange place. You're stressed out. So I would give the dog a little leeway on this. A couple of tips I would give you on getting your dog not to beg for food. One is, because Jan is looking at me like this because Goofy always puts his head in my lap. But I'll tell you, we feed our dogs first and then we eat. That's how Janet likes to do it. If you don't want your dog to beg for food, it's better that you eat first and you make the dog wait, because it makes the dog defer to you, and then you put the dog's food down. So nothing happens. So in the dominance, the hierarchical structure for the dog, if the dog eats first and then you go to eat, the dog sees that as a lower thing and the dog can continue to eat. If you eat first, like with lions, the same thing. Whoever's eating can keep eating and can leave and come back. But the ones who come in later are kind of in a lower part of the pack. So I'd even have the dog's food sitting on the what do they call it, countertop, and eat. And when you're done, walk over, tell them to sit and put it down. I think that will build a little bit better behavior into the dog eventually. But for now, I would just say, man, you're stressed out. You got evacuated. Your dog is stressed. You're stressed. I wouldn't try to solve this in this kind of situation. But if you want to fix it long term later when you're back in your home, that's what I would do.
Well, that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, Janet, thank you for helping. She's always wonderful and lovely to have help. It makes my time and extreme patience better, because my patience gets a little bit weak. But guys, thanks for being here. Sorry it's a little bit late. Enjoy the questions. I will see you next week with a brand new lesson. A lot of great stuff coming up. So enjoy it. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you later.